This is Comic Picks by the Glick.
Hey, I'm your host, Jason Glick.
Hey, Jason Glick, what's going on?
Hey, John, the usual is going on. It's like, well, actually, not the usual. It's like, say, we're back talking about X-Men stuff because, we can't just not talk about X-Men stuff on this channel.
As we should. X Men need some attention. So
Yeah, and as, the last time we talked about this, it's like, I thought the line was in a good place. And hey, my buddy Rob, it's like, he thought the line was in a good place too. It's like, and he's back to talk about, like, Ten of Swords with us. Hey, Rob, how you doing?
Hey, Jason. Hey, John. I'm doing pretty well.
Cool. So it's like basically the premise for X of Swords, was kind of set up in both Jonathan Hickman's X-Men and Tini Howard's Excalibur, because it turns out that it's like the origin of Apocalypse that we got. Well, there's a lot more to it now. It's like, and it turns out that he was actually like heir to like a great land known as Okara. It's like, and this land was originally like carved in two. It's like by a baleful menace known as the Twilight Sword. It's like, and this is like a huge like kind of retcon, but at the same time, it actually kind of to like feeds into his character as well. But as far as like the setup goes, the summoner that was introduced in the pages of X-Men, well, he's kind of like one of Apocalypse's grandchildren. And as far as Excalibur goes, well, it's like Apocalypse's theory of magic that he's been pushing in that series. Well, that's kind of like where this is coming to bear here, because he barely established the external gate, which is a direct portal into Saturnine's realm of the other world. Saturnine being the universal omnimatrix, like from Excalibur. Um, and I'm getting this right, Rob, aren't I?
Well, I would say that she's more from Captain Britain.
Yes.
Yes, she was in Excalibur, but she's very, very much she was existed in the Captain Britain stories before Excalibur. Excalibur was one of my favorite comics when I was young in the 80s, and I read some of the earlier Captain Britain stuff in order to kind of get an idea of who he was and where he came from.
Yeah, it's like I've been all right with Excalibur so far. I think, Rob, you've been all right with it, even though like its main cast includes both Jubilee and Gambit as well.
Yes,
Correct?
my least favorite X-Men characters. Um, it helps that Rogue is one of my favorites, and that they've done a really interesting job with what they're doing with Betsy Braddock, and so I'm still interested in it. Despite that, and even though Excalibur was my favorite comic when I was young, uh, and it doesn't have some of my favorite characters. It doesn't. Nightcrawler makes an appearance at one point in it, but he's it's just a side thing. And
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, so it's like this is like a big epic X-Men crossover, like because it's like, hey, like X-Men crossovers. I mean, they're kind of a dime a dozen. It's like over the years, and some of them have been really good. Like I still have like lots of fond memories for it's like for Messiah Complex. It's like and it's like what was the other one that Revelations, or it's like the one that like ended the whole like no more mutants thing. It's like that. It's like
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's like, yeah, it's like, damn it, it's like just having a huge brain fart. It's like right now. Oh, Second Coming, that was it. So so yeah, it's like, and then there are some that don't like live up to the spectrum, kind of like it's like Inhumans versus X-Men, which is like meant to like hey, it's like like the humans are the new X-Men, and like no, wait, they're not. It's like no one like that. So, but it's like with Jonathan Hickman taking over the line post with House of X and Powers of X. it's like the entire line has a great like solid direction to it in the sense that one guy is essentially planning the whole thing, but he's also like giving like everyone else in line enough leeway to tell their own stories as well. Because it's like, I mean, like after, like we've already talked about this before, Rob. I mean, we think that the X line was kind of in a good place, prior to Ten of Swords, right?
Oh yeah, there were a number of the majority of the comics were good. I enjoyed almost all of them. The only one that I didn't enjoy was Fallen Angels, which was really bad.
Yeah, which even then it's like it's Spectre. There's one like loose plot from there that's actually being picked up on by the current writer of Hellions, which we'll get to later on. But overall, it's like it's like X-Men, like the X line is like going from like strength to strength right now, and here we are with Ten of Swords. Basically, tells us that way back in the day, we're not talking about like not given a specific time, just talking like thousands of years ago. There was like the one mutant land of Okara, and then it was split in two by the advent of Ameth, it's like a foreign land that cleaved into through the use of the Twilight Sword, and it turns out. And it turns out that this land was originally like home to Apocalypse and his wife Genesis and their kids, the Four Horsemen. Because Apocalypse, family man. It's like, who knew?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like and as the introductions go, it's like we learned that that Apocalypse like eventually had to like leave this land to go to like the Marvel universe proper. It's like after the hordes of Amenth like were shown to be it's like it's like through it's like too numerous to like for the for this newly split land to deal with. So Krakoa and Apocalypse went to the Marvel universe, and Apocalypse was sent there in hopes of like raising a world that was fit enough, because Apocalypse is all about the survival of the fittest, and it's like in order to like hopefully stand against them, and we're told that his wife Genesis stayed behind in order to like stave off the hordes of Amenth, led by the evil mask wielder known as Annihilation. So this is what happened like thousands of years ago, and as far as we know, it's like it's like things it's like it's like Genesis was able to hold them off for a good long while, but then something happened, and this has led to Summoner showing up in the pages of X-Men, to let Apocalypse know what has happened, that he needs to come back and settle things. And in fact, it's like at the start of the crossover in Ten of Swords creation, we find out that it's like that Arako, the other half of Krakoa that was split in two by the Twilight Sword, has shown up in Otherworld, like the Universal Nexus from Excalibur, and well, Arako, it's like has taken over one of the fiefdoms of it's like of Otherworld. It's like, and like they're just like asking for a fight, and so when Apocalypse shows up, like he realizes that, oh, my kids, you're here. It's like I've waited like so long for you to see you guys again. It's like, and well, it turns out that they were waiting to see him too, not because they loved him, because after all these years they've grown to hate him, because Arako has become corrupted over after all these years, and this and the it's like, and it's like, and they're spoiling for a fight. They want to take. They've conquered like this. Like the hordes of Amenth have taken over all that Arako has to offer, and now they're looking for something new. Now they want to cross over through Otherworld onto Krakoa to take over everything that the Marvel Universe has to offer, starting with Krakoa. This is the start of Ten of Swords, and well, it's like it would be a very short crossover if it wasn't for the fact that Saturnine, the Universal Magistrix of Otherworld, has basically like declared that, like, no, you guys want to like crossover from your dimension to like the Marvel 616. Nah. I've got another plan here. In fact, it's like, if you guys want to like fight, I'm gonna need you to gather your swords in order to like prove that you're worthy of fighting in this particular contest. And that's what leads us to the first half of Ten of Swords, because this is a huge goddamn 22 issue X-Men crossover. And it's like, my God, it's like, it's like, as someone who's been following X-Men as long as I have, it's like, you think that think back to the days of like Executioner's Song, which is like a 12-part crossover that lasted 3 months. Well, this is a 22 issue crossover that lasted 2 months, and there are two clear halves here. First half being the gathering of the swords, and it's basically, in the first half is just, well, it's like, hey, it's just like set up for a lot of stuff, really. I mean, it's basically like, there are some swords that are familiar for each side. Cause like Wolverine has to gather the Muramasa sword that he's had some time with, and he gets 2 issues to do that. I mean, granted, he gets to go to hell for this, which is kind of impressive, and he even gets to mix things up with one of Amenth's champions, Soleth. Like that was fun. But then you also got Polaris like giving the prophecies to everyone in the one issue of X Factor that is collected here, and also like establishing the fact that, hey, if even though like we've established the resurrection mechanics like in like the current X titles, we've also got the stakes are established that if you die in Otherworld, well, it's like your backup data that like Professor X has collected has kind of been corrupted. So poor Rock Slide. It's like he's not going to be the same Rock Slide that we knew, the same dumb lovable Rock Slide that we knew like back in the day. But for the most part, like the first half is like basically dealing with like collection of the swords, like with Wolverine. It's like with Cypher, because hey, it turns out that his sword is going to be Warlock, and Storm's sword is going to be like Skybreaker, like is actually being kept in Wakanda. Betsy Braddock, well, she's got to get her sword would seem to be like the sort of might from Excalibur, the choosing of like what is Captain Britain, but it turns out it's actually going to be the Starlight sword that Saturnine has, and Cable's sword, the Light of Galador, is actually like a dual purpose thing, because not only is it his sword, but it's also the power source of the Peak, which is the power source to the Sentient Worlds Observation and Research Division. Right, Sentient Worlds Observation and Research Division. Did I get it right, Rob?
I don't remember the abbreviation, but it sounds good to me.
All right.
I did want to bring something up that I think something that you should mention that I feel like you kind of skipped over is,
no, please.
Why is there a contest at all?
Well, I guess it's because this is something that it's a kind of a flaw of the series in that it's not really flagged up until very late in the game, or it's not really flagged up too much, but it's also not really flagged up specifically until very late in the game. In a sense,
why that I might be asking. You might be jumping to a different part of it.
Because like I figure like the reason Saturnine is establishing a game at all is because, well, there's no way around this. She totally wants to bone Brian Braddock.
Yeah, that wasn't the why I meant. The why I meant is that Saturnine set up the game. It was kind of like I felt like you skipped over the just that part, that she got involved and defined a game that would determine who would go, the winners and what the stakes were. Okay. That was all why I brought it up, because you started to, I felt like, jumped into the sword thing, and it was kind of like, what swords? Where did that?
Okay, my bad. But yeah, that's basically what she was. Yeah, that's basically what she said. It's like she basically told each side, gather your swords, and that's kind of like what we're doing, what the first half is. Like each side has to kind of like gather, like like get their swords and whatnot. Yeah, and in fact, like it's like we get this bit where we get the impression that she wants Captain Britain in the Excalibur issue.
Right.
Yeah, it's like it's like and that's kind of the first half of the series is like, it's like a lot of setup, and it's like I think it's fine, but it's like I don't know, it's like it's still just like setup.
Yeah, we have to get into the second part before I can really explain my opinion of the first part.
Okay, and I will say though that the Marauders issue, it's like by Vita Ayala and Matteo Loli. It's like I appreciate what they were doing there, but it's like just the idea that like Storm, it's like she's forced to like steal like the Skybreaker from the vault in Wakanda. It's kind of like we've seen this thing kind of before. I mean, it's kind of like oh man, it's like she's got to like betray like T'Challa in order and his family in order to get this. And I think like we've seen this has been done before. It's like we didn't just something I felt we really needed to see. It's like I don't think it really adds a whole lot to the story. I much would have rather have seen like if once like when she asked for for Skybreaker, like they would have like said like no, you're not going to get this, and like they would have realized that, and she may would say like okay, well now we get this anyway, and they're like and they'd be like oh really, you think you can steal from Wakanda? Nah, I don't think so. I would have much rather seen like that kind of thing, like just the idea of like positioning like Storm stealing like a Skybreaker from Wakanda as kind of like a fun challenge rather than like a serious betrayal of trust.
Right.
Yeah, but overall, it's like the setup here isn't kind of like bad. I mean, yeah, I will also admit that like hey, do we really need a whole issue to show that hey, like Douglock or like Cypher is is kind of like sucks at actually fighting. It's like I'm not sure if we need that. And do we need like two whole issues to, like of Wolverine in Hell again? Um, I don't know. It's like overall, it's like it's the setup is fine, and I will say that like the setup with like Apocalypse is probably more necessary to the to the overall structure of the series, especially with it's like just establishing like his history with Araco. It's like and all. Oh, and also with the bit with Cable as well, like this his single issue being like, hey, it's like they're on the peak, which is actually at the headquarters of Sword, and it turns out like everyone hit there has died. And well, what's like why did everyone die? Well, this is actually set up for for the second half, specifically the climax.
Yeah.
So it's like with Cable, it's like it's fine, but it's like it's specifically set up. But like I said, this whole first half is all set up, all the way to Ten of Swords stasis, which is when everyone like gets some who has got a sword is shunted to Otherworld, and then there's a nice amount of dialogue basically like it's like these swords like they're not actually meant for fighting, like they're just meant like they're to prepare that you are worthy for the next fight, for the next part of this conflict.
So now are we going to talk about the second part, and then I'll give you my opinion of the first part once we've talked a little about the second part.
Yeah, because I mean the stasis basically sets up what the gives us like the bare knowledge of what we need to understand for like the other creatures of Araco, like the people who are going to be fighting against. I mean, there's some interesting characters like the White Sword, who like a hero of Araco, who eventually like was driven mad by his drive for conquest, and then there's like Apocalypse's children, the original four horsemen, which have their own like agendas, and also I gotta admit I really did like Pog Per, like the Pog or Poor, or it's like
I thought it was Pog or Pog. I thought
Pog or
was
Pog,
his name
yes.
twice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like who was just he's just like he speaks his name and he speaks everything he says in rhyme, and he's just like this gigantic like alligator type character with four arms, like that can wield four swords. But as far as what his actual sword is, that's kind of a nice twist. It's like in the story. But I mean, there's like as far as like setting up these characters, it's like that's what Stasis is there for, just like establishing like what are these weird new characters that Hickman and co-writer Tini Howard have set up for us. It's like in order for the characters to fight against, and you think that this is going to be like, oh, we're going to fight against them like sword on sword. Everyone's got swords, they're going to fight, obviously. But first half of Stasis is just like establishing the other team, and then the second half is the Tero, just establishing what they're going to be fighting against, and also establishing the fact that, well, turns out that the wife Apocalypse left behind, well, it's like Genesis. Turns out that she's kind of succumbed to annihilation, and that they're going to be fighting against each other, like in the second half here. So, Rob, I'm going to leave it to you to talk about what's like how this second half interacts with this first half then.
So like I said, it's been a while since I've read it, so I don't remember all the details, but the basic gist of it is the first fight is a sword fight. I don't know if you want to talk about outcomes or not, but the rest of them is just a giant game of Calvinball. It's Saturnine is just making up new rules and new games, and it seems like nobody really knows what's going on going into it. How careful are we being about spoilers in this?
It's like I think you can be spoilerific about some of the more outlandish fights.
Okay. Well, I'm talking about the overall, general gist of how it goes for each team until towards the end, kind of stuff.
I don't think I'd be spoiling anything to say that the Krakoa team finds itself on the back foot until the very end.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it gets increasingly frustrating in that manner because it just feels like it's just arbitrary. It just the challenges, a lot of them seem arbitrary. Even at one point, they pit two Krakoa team members against each other so that Krakoa effectively can't win.
No, they do win because they get a point. Because it's like they get it doesn't matter who wins. It's like because Krakoa is going to win.
I thought they lost a point and gained a point and nothing happened.
Oh, well, because
not right.
Well, you're right. The thing is, you're right. Because the fight you're talking about is the drinking contest between Wolverine and Storm. Right. And we're not going to. I guess you can't really spoil the outcome for that because it was kind of fun. I mean, and then then it's like because there's like a simultaneous fight between two of the Araco characters, Solem and War, and this is like one of the few times when we've got some actual background in the fight, because Solem was apparently apparently he eventually convinced War's husband to kill himself, or that he was in love with him and got him to kill himself regardless. But it's War has been looking to settle the score with Solem for for eons now, for millennia. It's then Solem, he's got a special card to pull that I thought was kind of impressive. It's in the end,
that's one of the better parts of it, and I'd like to if you probably want your listeners not to be spoiled on that one, because that's one of the I'm just going to say overall I kind of was disappointed in this series because I did read all of it, I read all that lead up with all the swords, and it felt like a big waste of time when they weren't even using them.
I can understand that, but also I do want to admit that your description of like second half is a big old game of Calvinball. I really like that. Honestly, that's a really good description of it, and I think that actually like sums up like a big part of like this the second half's appeal to me.
Yeah,
Because
I mean, it was fun. Yeah,
yeah, it's like I mean like when the first fight like basically kind of ends in a death and then ends in a wedding, I was like, okay,
yeah,
yeah, it's like that wasn't expecting that. And then when we get to like the montage bits in it's like in X Force, it's like that was actually kind of fun too. Apparently, like there was like a modeling competition where Storm like like absolutely like, killed it, and like Wolverine was just like, oh, it's like it's just one panel, but you can tell that Wolverine was just not having any of this. Yeah, it's like, and it's like I gotta admit, it's like I can understand like how it's like how like like okay, it's like we're not gonna get like a big old sword fight, but I get like a sword fight between like the people who collected all the swords and all. But I gotta admit, it's like I did really enjoy like the fact that hey, it's like the second half is just like pure silliness, more than anything else. It was a nice subversion of expectations, like for me.
yeah. And I here's the thing. I mean, I do. It did feel like, yeah, it was a subversion of expectations, and I enjoyed it for what it was in that. But it's It's kind of, I should say, it's interesting. It is weird, and it felt kind of jarring to go from Hickman's really kind of, I don't know the best wording for how to say this, deep or I guess I would say verbose might be a good way of his history that he's created, to jump into this kind of comedy stuff. I love comedy in comics, and I like serious in comics. The way this transition worked was kind of jarring for me. But yeah, I mean the actual contest was fun, but I called it Calvinball because effectively, like you said before, the whole contest was kind of pointless. It was just she just wanted to be able to sleep with Brian, and that was her end goal, was to get him to agree to that in order for them to win. That's what I remember. Tell me if I'm wrong about that specific part.
No, it's like you're not wrong, and I think that one thing that the series could have done better was when Brian gets to like race the it's like the greenery champion like from Araco like in the crooked market. It's like I think it would a better explanation of like what happened to what did Brian have to like, give up in order for Saturnine and Jim Jaspers to let him go. It's like that would have been like that would have been appreciated really, because like when like while we see that like Jaspers like takes this this greenery champion from Araco, because after he breaks this like priceless artifact, well like Brian like like makes a mess of the whole, excuse me, like of the whole like market, and like and Saturnine is just saying, oh, like, this is terrible. It's like if only you had someone to like break you out of this. It's like, and you're kind of thinking, okay, well, what's he gonna do here? And well, we don't actually find out. It's left to the reader's imagination to assume that Brian either had some kind of like some reserves to call in, like a favor to call in, or maybe he called Saturnine bluff in the sense that he was ready to like go and like be subjected to Jasper's like Jasper's plan retribution, and basically like like Saturnine would then intervene. It's like, no, it's like, I'm not gonna let Jaspers have his way with you. It's like I'm gonna find my way to have my way with you at some other point. So that was kind of disappointing, but it's like, considering that we're dealing with a series that runs with like what like like half a dozen writers. It's like like I think it's kind of impressive that the series kind of holds together as well as it does, especially since like a lot of the writers like actually did contribute to like did co-write like certain issues, such as Jerry Dugan and Benjamin Percy, like the normal writers for like Marauders and X Force, they actually like contributed to like each of their own, like writing two of their own these issues with or two issues of Marauders, like which showed what was going on, like in the dinner before the fight, which was actually kind of fun because like it shows you like the characters like interacting normally before they're set up to kill each other, even though it's like I really did not like Wolverine thinking that, hey, maybe if I kill Saturnine, it's like this is going to work out well for us.
Yeah, that I remember that being jarring for me too.
Yeah, because I mean, like, I was like, it's just kind of disappointing when like some writers like basically like resort to like saying, "Hey, Wolverine, he's the guy who's going to be like go for the extreme shank sanction in order to win," and yeah, I know he's the kind of guy who would go for that, but I also believe he's smarter than that in the sense that he would look at what's at stake and realize that, hey, it's like Saturnine is kind of the only person standing between our world, it's like and like its ultimate conquest. So maybe I don't want to kill her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of disappointing. But
Wasn't the implication at that time that basically he was doing that to keep Doug from dying?
I think that might have been it. But like but like the whole like poisoning with the whole like Araco poisoning Douglock came after.
No, I meant the sword fight. This is before. This is before they actually did the fight, and everybody going into it was like, Doug is going to die. Because they thought they were all going to sword fight. And he was going up against someone that was absolutely going to destroy him in a sword fight.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't think that was especially, like, I didn't get the vibe that he was doing this specifically for, like for Cypher. Because, like, when, in like the first issue, it's like at the beginning, like he mentioned he mentioned to Storm like don't try to talk me out of what I'm doing. She says no, don't miss. So you get the feeling that he wasn't doing this like for Cypher. He was just like doing this because he thought like maybe killing her like would be it's like would stop things, and that's.
Well, I thought that was the thing was that it would stop. And maybe I'm sorry, maybe I had too much of that on my mind, but I felt like there were a lot of people worried about Cypher, and that was because one thing of it was maybe it was the only thing that I thought that would excuse what Wolverine was doing, because Wolverine has always been protective of the younger X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that Cypher shouldn't really be viewed as that young, but to Wolverine, he's one of the younger ones, and the impression that if this battle goes on, the Cypher's going to die. But anyway, I'm sorry to keep pushing on that. You can go on.
No, I think you're right in the sense that Wolverine was kind of acting out of like a sense of concern for younger X-Men and like the general and mutants in general. Maybe just not like Cypher specifically, I guess, but overall, I really enjoyed like the second half more than the first half, just because of like that whole Calvinball aspect that you mentioned, just like the fact that you couldn't really tell like what was going to happen next, and then when you get to the very end, it's like, and it turns out that it's like the X-Men are just like, or Krakoa is so far behind, and then Gorgon shows up and just like gets his old Dynasty Warriors on the White Swords team. It's like, and that's kind of like that kind of leads into like a nice like evening of scales. It's it's like if you're treating the story as like a strict serious contest of wills between both teams, and it's like, yeah, this is kind of like wholly annoying. But as far as like something that's like basically being like subject entirely to Saturnine's will, this is kind of like I thought it was kind of fun. It's like, and so that kind of leads into the like the final arc, which it's basically like when shit gets real, and everyone starts like fighting against each other. When it's like when the hordes of Amenth realize that, okay, it's like, no, this isn't going to play in our favor, so we're going to bring everyone to the table, and we're going to like go ahead and like fight like everyone here. And it also brings in like the final reckoning between Apocalypse and Genesis as well. It's like this. It's basically like this is what leads us to destruction. And well, it's like like it shows us that hey, like Saturnine, she's got her plan to get Brian back for her, but it turns out that, well, the new Captain Britain corpse, well, it's not going to be Captain Britain. It's going to be Captain Betsy now. Yeah, and well, it's like even if that may be enough to like to stall things, but well, it turns out there's a lot of other things, both from the issue of Cable that was in the first half that show you like, hey, well, it turns out we've got our own alien hordes to unleash on everything. We've also got Scott Summers, who's also been like monitoring things from the safe grounds of Krakoa, and also basically telling everyone that, hey, it's time for everyone who involved who can be to be X-Men again. It's like, and so like we're setting up like a proper X-Men team. It's like for the stories to the future, and it's like there's a lot of setup here, but it also kind of feeds into like the whole climax of like big armies fighting against each other. But in the end, like the what it all turns on is what Apocalypse has been going through, and I gotta admit that it's like seeing what he does here. It's like it was actually kind of impressive, and it kind of felt true to what has been established here. I mean, God knows that when I heard about this series, I didn't think that Apocalypse it's like trying to do right by the person he loves was going to be like the big turning point, being the big like fulcrum of this series, but it actually was, and I kind of appreciated that. It's not something I would have expected to have seen, but it's actually something that turns out to work pretty well based on the amount of setup that the creators have invested in it. Rob, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I enjoyed the second half for what it was, but after it was all done, I kind of lost my momentum in interest in this whole Hickman X-Men run, because at the end I felt like not that much had changed. And so I guess I was expecting something to, after reading Powers of 10 and House of X, it was so like, I don't know, mind-blowing, eye-opening, whatever. I was like, this is amazing and I want more, because it was radical. It changed everything. And then here's the next big crossover, and it felt like, oh, this is changing very little.
This is very silly.
Yeah. I liked the silly part, but it, for the big, having it be the big crossover and here's this dramatic showdown,
for the payoff.
Yeah, the payoff wasn't there for me. I mean, there were good moments in this, and I'll admit, but overall, I mean, and honestly, I haven't read any X-Men comics or any of these comic sets. Once this ended, I'll wait. I'll wait a while, and then maybe I'll read a bunch later. But I'm not.
I'm gonna say technically you can't, because while all of this is on, all of Ten of Swords is on Marvel Unlimited. They've only like a few of the series have gotten to the post like Ten of Swords status quo.
Right. So, I did read them when they were coming out. So, but Marvel Unlimited is what I'm doing now. So it's probably fine that that I've waited this long, but I'm not in a hurry to read it again. The other thing, I mean, to be honest, the other thing is I don't have as much time as I used to have. So
That's fair enough. And this is like a gigantic like crossover. It's like
yes,
so it's like I mean it's like as far as like I'm concerned, like it's like as someone who was like deeply invested in the X-Men stuff, it's like it's like I really it's like well I did enjoy it, but I will admit that like the first half is just kind of like set up like for like a I can appreciate the fact that everyone's kind of like setting things up to like, hey, there's gonna be a giant sword fight, and then in the second half it's kind of like, oh wait, no, this is like giant silliness, like you said, it's the Calvinball match. It's like,
yeah,
and I appreciate that, but overall, it's like I can imagine that I can understand that like I can respect your perspective on this, Rob. It's like just the fact that this like Hickman has done like some really good extended stuff like for the Marvel Universe, like in his Infinity crossover and Avengers Time Runs Out, but that was also because he was writing all of it. This is like a coordinated effort through like lots of different writers, and some of them are good, some of them are not, and I think that had maybe if like Hickman had written everything, and that'd be like a crazy thing to ask. I think that like there'd be like a more cohesive, focused sense of momentum here. But as it is, like I enjoyed it, and also I think I enjoyed most out of all these issues.
what was it?
Hellions.
Oh yeah, you got to talk about that whole run because that's like a side story.
Yeah, because while the series is billed as a 22-part crossover with each individual part labeled, um, the two Hellions issues, written by Zeb Wells and illustrated by Carmen Carnero, they are very much a tie-in arc, to this whole thing. It's like just because like they don't have anything to do with like the gathering of swords and the actual fighting. In fact, like the whole setup behind them is the fact that they're they are essentially trying to stop this whole conflict before it starts, because Mr. Sinister figures that hey, it's like if we can steal the Araco swords, it's like they'll have to forfeit. Hey, this will be great. It's like I'll just take my team, who is like comprised of Psylocke, Havoc, Grey Crow, Hellion, Orphan and Nanny, Orphan Maker and Nanny. It's like, and this will be great, but really, it's like it's just like even more like depraved, demented silliness than what we got in the second half. I mean, this is like a tie-in arc that basically has Sinister arguing with his clone to hey, it's like you're gonna go out and lead these guys on their on their suicide run. It's like no, I'm not. You're gonna go and lead them because you're Sinister. It's like and like probably the best on the entire series is like, hey, it's like, why don't you just let me pepper your face because I'm going to eat it now. It's like that. I mean, just that kind of like ridiculousness. I mean, it's even more so than what we got in the second half. It's just like it's Sinister leading the mutants under his team on a suicide mission that he has orchestrated on his own terms, and it is funny, it is hilarious, it is expected, it is really really dark, but it's kind of funny because it's just kind of like flying in the face of everything you'd expect, like from this like X-Men story.
Yeah, I remember enjoying that little side story. There's I don't remember a lot of what's left of it, but I remember part of the ending, and I probably should share that. So
Yeah, it's like you probably shouldn't because like it's because I think it's key to the series. In fact, I did. This is like one of the few issues where like we've actually got the post Ten of Swords issue on Marvel Unlimited. It's like, and I wanted to see like, oh, well, what happened here? It's like, and it's actually pretty fun because we get new renditions of Wild Child. It's like, and Nanny. We also get to see Sinister, um braying to the White Cancel about how like bring my Hellions back to me, and the White and Emma Frost going like, oh, I want to see if we get some more crocodile tears from this guy. So yeah, like Hellions, it's like basically like just takes kind of like the set for this whole crossover and just basically like kind of like takes like it's like a very dark, very unexpected, very funny take on it. It's like, and I gotta admit, it's like I really enjoyed it, and it's honestly kind of like made a good case for being for Hellions being like kind of like the secret best title of the current X-Men, because while Hickman's X-Men is like, you know, telling all the like the important like stories, even if like they're just like kind of like side stories, and Marauders being probably the most like, you know, like straightforwardly enjoyable of them. Like Hellions is kind of like just taking like you know, your X-Men story and just like telling something that's really dark and funny. It's like, and just basically like doing us like a two-part issue where Hellion takes over Greycrow's mind and makes him like devoted to him, makes him sickeningly devoted to Hellion to the point where Hellion like gets tired of it, and then once he lets him go, like Greycrow just stabs him and just like, hey, you know, if you can get to the Krakoa gate, then hey, maybe your backup won't be corrupted. It's like that's kind of like storytelling we're dealing with here. It's like, and I really appreciated that. It's like I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's like I'm thinking that, well, even though if I can read all this stuff on Marvel Unlimited, it's like I'm only going to buy the issues where like that I really enjoy. And I think that I probably need to start buying Hellion so I can like have it in print, in case, like the post-apocalypse happens in like the next couple of months, because you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess so I guess, Rob, so I guess you're not feeling too hot about the whole like next direction of like X-Men like after this then.
I mean, I kind of lost interest, but I recently heard about what is it, X-Men Reign?
Reign of X is like
Reign of X, sorry.
Yeah, that's kind of the general description for like, what's all the post House of X stuff. So
yeah, so I kind of feel like I should start picking it up again, but I'm not inclined to do it right now. I think I will eventually. I just I love the X-Men characters too much not to eventually catch up.
And it's free on Marvel Unlimited. So.
Yes, and it is free on Marvel Unlimited, so it's not like it's a money thing. It's really a time thing for me. I am going to say something. I hope you're not mad about this.
No, go ahead.
But I pulled up Marauders issue 14. And I can explain to you why I thought it was about Doug and the other young ones. There is a scene in it. There are a couple of scenes in it. Okay, so the first one is you have this scene where Doug is saying hey to the person that he's going to fight.
Oh, Bathe the Blood Moon, yeah.
Yeah, and immediately afterwards, Wolverine... That's that scene with the Storm saying, "I know what you're thinking."
Yeah, I see it right now too.
Talk me out of it, and then you go down when he confronts Brian and says, "Hey, all you have to do is this one thing, and you can get out of it." And he says, "I'm a married man," and then Wolverine says, "Well, yeah, I was married, whatever, but you know who hasn't been married? Cypher." And then also Magic and Cable. And then he points out, and he says at the end, he says, "And when they're fighting to the death, I don't think I'll watch. I'll be watching the guy that could have stopped it." And when he stabs Saturnine, I think what is going through his head is, you know what? Brian Braddock is not the only person that could have stopped it. I could stop it too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he stabbed her. I get what you're saying, and that it would flood all of that. I still had a problem with it for those same reasons. I think that Wolverine is wiser than that, could see the long-term effects. But I understand what the writer was going for in this, and I do think that it was about the kids. It just there like you said, there was a flaw in that whether he stabs her or not, they risk death.
You're right. I can understand that, considering that there was also like a big event, X-Men event story, schism, basically like hinged on like like whether or not the X-Men would use like the younger generation as soldiers in their fight. It's like, and Wolverine was like saying, no, we are fighting because we don't want that. And Cyclops says, hey, like they are mutants. They are already soldiers in this fight. So yeah, I can get what you're saying right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but overall, it's like it's like this is a payoff for like a lot of stuff that has been set up in X-Men and also in Excalibur as well. It's like I think that it works. It's like I am still on board. It's like, though, to be honest, it's like it would take a long sustained effort of terrible X-Men stories to get me off the boat for X-Men.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that I'm still on board with what Hickman is doing here. In fact, to be honest, like I before we did this, I wanted to I was on Marvel Unlimited just to see if the next issue of X-Men 16 had come out, because I wanted to know, like, okay, so if there's like there's a huge influx of mutants to Krakoa, then I would like to know like how that's going to pay off. So
right.
Unfortunately, like that issue is not on Marvel Unlimited, but like I'm probably gonna want to check it out as soon as it is, because man, it's like what's set up here is just like it's kind of potentially game changing. Because like especially after like all those mutants were depowered back in the day, it's like to get like this huge influx of new mutants for reasons which I will not get into here. But like I said, I want to know like how this is gonna like change things like going forward.
Yeah, I forgot about that part, and I think the problem is that I don't really get into Hickman's self-created characters. He makes characters that are really weird that don't really endear to me. Stuff like the Summoner. The Summoner reminds me a lot of you remember the yellow guy during the
oh yeah, from his Avengers run.
Right. What was that guy's name? I don't know.
I want to say he's a gardener. It's like he
right.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was one of the guys who was like, I know who you're talking about, but he was just like one of the guys one of the creative type people who from that Hickman established for the run. It's like, and yeah, it's like I get what you're saying there, but it's also kind of like a long term. Hickman's also kind of like a very long term like planner here, so it's kind of like I think that the introduction of that character did pay off in it's like in Infinity. It's like maybe it didn't quite pay off to the same way it did here. I will admit. It's like like I said, it's yeah, you're right. It's kind of like the same kind of character, but it's not just not the same kind of way, because I think he's working with he's actually having to work with other people in order to set this up here. It's not him like directing everything. But I will say that I want to see how Cypher's marriage works out, because that seems like it's kind of fun. Because like, I mean, yeah, it's like the way that he can't understand her just kind of feels like he can't understand her. Like, don't expect us to explain it in great detail and all. But yeah, it's like I can appreciate the idea behind this, and I want to see where that goes. So
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I will say that the idea of giving Apocalypse it's like a romantic history. It's like actually I think it did pay off for this thing, because ultimately what he's doing at the end, it's not because I'm Apocalypse. I'm doing this because I'm doing this for my wife. God damn it.
Yeah, I was going to say the two new characters that were created that I found the most interesting were, and I'm sorry I've forgotten the names, but yeah, the one that marries Cypher. What's her name again?
Bay the Blood Moon.
Bay the Blood Moon, And then the other woman, the one that never loses. What was her
Iska
name?
the Unbeaten.
Iska the Unbeaten. She was really interesting because at first you go, oh, that's kind of a dumb power. What, she just can't be beaten? But it's the way that she can't be beaten.
Yeah, it's
Interesting.
Yeah, because it turns out at the end, it's like, it's like she's basically going to align. She's basically determined to align to whatever side is going to win. That's basically what it means.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, and I kind of appreciated that in the end. It's basically a harbinger of tragedy at the beginning, but it's also kind of like a sign of hope at the end.
Right.
Yeah. So, like, maybe Hickman has plans for her. Maybe she's just like an interesting concept, but we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's set up here, and also it sounds like we're getting like one solid volume of stories before we get to the next big X-Men event, like later this summer.
That's good.
Yeah.
I don't like the events to be too close together.
No, in fact, like the next event is going to be kind of interesting in its setup because while Ten of Swords is like a big 22-part crossover, the Hellfire Gala is going to be like one shot, and then all the other titles of the month, just showing you their perspective on it.
That's a cool way to do it.
Yeah. So apparently we're getting like a like the new X-Men team, like maybe the new like ruling council of Krakoa, like through this, and also just like lots of madness in the other X-Men titles as well, including it's like showing what the Hellions, like because apparently they weren't invited to this, but they're showing up anyway, and also Nightcrawler turning up like as well because you heard how he's getting his own title, or not really his own title, but a title that basically focuses on him specifically.
No, I hadn't heard about that.
Okay, you hear about Way of X?
No, I haven't heard about that. I'm sorry.
Okay, no. It's like, so let me tell you about it. So you remember in X-Men 7 when they introduced the idea of the Crucible?
Yes.
And you remember how Nightcrawler was thinking about, maybe I need to establish a mutant religion.
Yeah, I do remember that.
This is a series that's going to focus on that.
Well, that's kind of interesting because it's like Nightcrawler is Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Why would he start another religion?
Well, because he's not. I think he's acknowledging like the current status of like the X line. It's like like it's like if anyone can be resurrected. It's like what have we got to fear from the from the afterlife? Like is there like some kind of like what do we have? What if our afterlife is secure? Then what do our souls have to fear from the life like that we live? It's like that's what he's going to try to do. And the guy that they got to write this, Simon Spurrier, he's a guy who just like loves like finding different ways to look at setups. But this is a setup that hey, like Nightcrawler establishing a mutant religion. It's like this sounds like something that he would actually like want to dive into like head first. So
he'll probably address the fact that Nightcrawler is a Catholic but is starting a religion.
Absolutely. I mean, like he's also like someone who has history with the X-Files as well, because he did the X-Men Legacy run that focused on Legion, and also the X-Force run that basically established that Cable may not have had the right idea in fighting force with force. So yeah, it's like This is something this is like one of the titles that's coming. And there's also the X Corp title from Excalibur writer Tini Howard that's basically going to have Monet or M and Warren Worthington going to it's like just like focusing on the corporate side of the X-Men. It's like basically like hey it's like if everyone can like if the X-Men can break if Krakoa can bring the world to heel based on their based on their exports, with like the mutant drugs they've been promising, then what else can we accomplish through economic means? So that's also what's going to be coming as well for the X line, and these are also going to be participating titles for the Hellfire Gala, once it hits in June.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, so it's like, I mean, like, I'm invested, and it's also nice to hear that it's going to be like a big 1 month crossover between all the titles, and it also sounds like there's like being a lot of leeway for everyone to offer their own perspective on this event. Like, it's basically being a big party, and everyone's gonna have their own perspective on it. Because it's also gonna be, the issue is gonna be written, the main issue, like the plot driving issue, planet-sized X-Men, because it's planet-sized because giant-sized X-Men is so played out at this point. Yeah, it's gonna be written by Jerry Dugan and the artist from Pepe Larraz. So I think it sounds good. It's like, and also looking forward to seeing what volumes come, what stories each series tells. It's like in between them, because also X-Men is also supposed to tell the story of, hey, you remember what happened when Wolverine or Laura Kinney X-23 and Sync and Darwin went into the it's like the other world, or it's like the
the world. It's just called the world.
Yeah, the world.
Right?
Yes. Yeah, it's like, well, that we're gonna get the story of what happened there between now and the Hellfire Gala.
Oh, I definitely want to know what happened there.
Yeah, so I mean, like X-Men 18. That's when it's gonna happen. So.
Oh boy.
So you may need to. So I mean, you can wait until it shows up on Marvel Unlimited, or I don't know. It's like you find a place where it falls off the internet. Then there's that as well. But overall, I guess to wrap things up, I mean, it's like I overall I liked Ten of Swords. I will admit that 22 issues is like way too much, and maybe they didn't have like the direction to sustain a story through all that. So, but in the end, it's like I do appreciate the changes it promised, and what it's set up for the for the line going forward. It's like I will give. So I give it a marginal thumbs up. There you go.
So do you recommend that people read through this? I mean,
Well,
you might have different opinions here, so I'd like to hear from both.
Okay, if you're already reading, X-Men and Excalibur, then yeah, you kind of have to read this, because it's basically like the next volume.
If you're not, and you wouldn't just get the collected story,
this is absolutely not the place to start if you haven't been on board with the current X-Men stuff. Yeah. I mean, this is something that you would only need to read if you're already on board with the X-Men stuff in general. I mean, it's like, if you're not on board with it, then obviously don't bother. It's like, I mean, it's like, yeah, it's like, sure, you can read it on Marvel Unlimited. I got the hardcover edition because I have more money than sense, and then the softcover edition will be coming out later this year, at half price. So, but even then, it's like this is something I would say is only for the committed. I mean, much as I like what Hickman and company are doing on X-Men, this is not something I would say that is like a audience broadening exercise. This is like something that would probably only mostly be appreciated by the committed.
Yeah, and I agree with what you're saying there, with one caveat, and that is that you don't really know how valuable a given set of comics is in a Hickman run until the run is over.
I can understand what you're saying there. I will say that as far as what Hickman has done in the Marvel Universe up prior to this, with his runs on Fantastic Four and Avengers, I will say that they were thoroughly enjoyable on their own terms. That being said, if we're comparing Ten of Swords to, say, Infinity, I will say that Infinity definitely gets the nod over Ten of Swords.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that when I found out after reading House of X and Powers of 10, I was so enthralled with Hickman's writing that I went back and read all of his Fantastic Four and all of his Avengers runs. And there were things that he referred back to that I was grateful that I read all of it. I don't know if he's going to refer back to something from this. I don't know.
Yeah, so basically you're saying that, like, I guess your opinion here is just like it's less entertaining on its own terms, even though it's like maybe entertaining in the long run.
It might be, yeah, it might be. It's for the same reason that I'm the kind of person that if I really enjoy something, I wind up, consuming all of it. I consume all MCU properties because I don't want to miss anything, and sometimes some adjacent things just in case. And so, I'm just saying that it might turn out later that there might be something more to this than what I saw in it. But for now, I would agree with you that if only the most committed should bother reading it.
Yeah.
You might get a kick out of the later issues with the contest. That's enjoyable stuff. And of course,
and who doesn't like Calvinball?
Yeah, yeah. And of course, the Hellion stuff is great.
Yeah, it's like I think that the Hellion stuff is fun just because it feels like it's kind of thumbing its nose at everything, and also like Zeb Wells writes a great Mr. Sinister. I'm so glad that Hickman and Wells and everyone just like decided to go back to Kieron Gillen's it's like fabulous I'm going to clone myself because I'm the most awesome mutant of all interpretation of the character. Yeah. So I very much appreciated that. It's like, and so yeah, so you can either buy Ten of Swords right now in hardcover, which is only $100. You can read it all on Marvel Unlimited, which will cost you a little bit less than that, or you can a little less than that. Since like a year's subscription is like $70, and then it'll be coming out later this year in softcover for $50. So
one thing I would say about that is the difficulty is, when I was looking at it on Marvel Unlimited to do rereading, they don't have unless I missed it and I'm wrong, let me know if I'm wrong. They don't have a consolidated in order version. I had to look up online what issues do I read in what order. So if you were looking to read this, buying it is probably a better option at this point, unless you have the patience to sit down and go, oh, I have to read this issue, and now I have to find this, this issue, this comic, where, when you're reading online, sometimes it's easier to just, oh, I'm on this comic, I can go to the next comic.
Okay. Hey, Rob.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, yes, you are wrong.
I am wrong?
Marvel Unlimited, it's like actually has reading lists, which like for certain stories. And if you go to if you go to like click on the reading lists and then you go to like events, you will see like an event listing for X of Swords or Ten of Swords.
Oh man, I didn't see the events thing.
Yeah, it's
I had actually saw that earlier this week. Jason, when I was asking you about that.
Oh, so you got a subscription for Marvel Unlimited?
No, but you can look at it. You can look at what it constitutes. Where did I see that? Or was it maybe it might have been the Amazon listing, so don't quote me on that exactly.
Okay.
Even though this is being recorded and that's technically a quote. But no, I did, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is a collected volume. Okay, so and I didn't see the hardcover, version available, but I did see the other one that I guess it's just the paperback that'll be released later.
Yeah, it's like I Amazon apparently had some issues with like getting supply of the Ten of Swords collection. It's like initially it's originally supposed to like ship at the beginning of February, and then they basically said, oh nope, not happening, and then like they just kept getting delayed, and then I eventually wound up getting my copy from cheapgraphicnovels.com.
So just for reference, $60 for the hardcover right now at Amazon, and then the paperback, which will be released later, is 50. So there appears to be some kind of discount on Amazon for it currently.
Well, it's like $60 is the discounted price for the hardcover. $50 is the cover price for the soft cover.
Yeah.
So,
Correct. Yeah, because it's listing at 100, I think here. If I read this correctly.
yeah,
So,
but yeah, I'm sorry to contradict you, Rob, but like the Marvel Unlimited does have a reading list, for for Ten of Swords.
Where do you find the reading lists?
Okay, it's like, so if you go to it's like if you go to like the front, you have the front page, like there'd be like an event listing. It's like, or if you like, if you're on the like I'm looking on my iPad Pro, and I see
I
like
bet that's it. See, I'm reading it. I'm looking at it on the website, and it is way harder to find the comics on the website than on the app. I bet that's my problem. I don't have it on the iPad. I only have it on my phone, and my phone's so small. I was trying to read it on the PC.
Okay.
Anyway, I don't want to waste any more time on your podcast with you telling me how to find the event.
Okay.
Although your followers probably want to know.
Yeah, it's like like I said, I've got like there's a reading lists thing on the Marvel app, on the Marvel Unlimited app, that basically says that basically has like if you go to like events, like on that like reading list thing, it'll have like like X of Swords on there.
I found it.
Okay.
It's right there on the app. It's impossible to find on the website.
Okay. Well, now you know.
Yeah.
And what's knowing?
It's half the battle.
Yes.
And the other half is violence.
I'll get to remember that, because that's actually true too. Yeah. But actually, I'm glad you mentioned this, because it also kind of leads into, I guess, what I want to talk about for next time.
Okay.
Because hey, it turns out that Vision Quest is also pinned to this event line as well. And hey, Vision Quest is also said to have like some pretty strong significance to WandaVision, as far as like being one of like the inspirational stories behind this series.
Cool.
Yeah. So basically the plan is like I'm gonna read these issues. Like, I mean, this is like 10 issues of old school Marvel stuff from the 90s. It's like by John Byrne. It's like, who has done some great comics, and great comics of their time. Maybe not this currently as well. So there you go. So we'll see how well his story is held up, like after all these years, like next time on Comics by the Glick.
All right, cool.
Okay, and thanks for joining us, Rob.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, always a pleasure, man.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, we'll talk to you later on Comics by the Glick.
All right, laters.